My tolerance, trying my patience, and never want to see me. It's another one waiting. I'm trying to lies you tell me, lies you tell me. You're testing my tolerance, trying my patience, and never want to see me. It's another one waiting. I'm tired of the lies you tell me, lies you tell me. Smile on my face is just meant to deceive you. Am I that see-through, or is it only in my mind? I can't break free from this hold on me. There's no more I can pretend. And now I see the reality is we're closer to the end. I'm so tired of the lies you tell me, lies you tell me. You're testing my tolerance, trying my patience, and every word you say to me is just another one wasted. I'm tired of the lies you tell me, lies you tell me. The smile on my face is just meant to deceive you. Am I that see-through, or is it only in my mind? I can't break free from this hold on me. There's no more I can pretend. And now I see the reality is we're closer to the end. Can't break free, I can't break free, I can't break free. Can't break free from this hold on me. I can't break free from this hold on me. Can't break free from this hold on me. I can't break free, I can't break free, I can't break free from this hold on me. There's no more I can pretend. And now I see the reality is we're closer to the end. Closer to the end. And now I see the reality is we're closer to the end.
All right, and welcome to Real Progressives. This is Steve with Real Progressives. Tonight's a special show because Rocco Million will be joining me. And Rocco, as you all know, learned modern monetary theory, first generation Real Progressives. So without further ado, let me bring on my homie, Rocco Million. Welcome to RP, brother.
Hey, what's up, Real Progressives? How you doing, Steve? Thanks for having me. How's everyone doing tonight?
Everybody's good. It looks like everybody's doing good. So real quickly, I want to tell you all, the band that you heard opening up is from my brother's old band, In Theory, which is perfectly named given modern monetary theory, is mostly what we're talking about tonight. But that is also one of our volunteers singing there, and Tim Yeomans. So Tim Yeomans on vocals, that would be Brian Grumbine on guitars, and that would be none other than the big guy himself on bass. I got to tell you right now, folks, I am very excited to have Rocco on because so many people literally trolled the bejesus out of Real Progressives forever, talking truth. We've been dropping truth since the start of this whole thing. And now people are starting to wake up to what modern monetary theory is. They're starting to wake up to the possibilities. They're starting to realize that when people talk crap about MMT, they're literally shooting the entire progressive movement in the foot. I have been none too kind about it. I have called them murderers by proxy. I've called them everything under the sun. And I tell you what, Rocco, the reason why I love Rocco is because he's able to tolerate the trolls in a way that I can't stand, man. I get within inches of them, and all I want to do is run for cover, brother. How do you handle Troll Cephas and all the rest of the fools that come around talking about the value of their dollar and we don't know anything? It's conspiracy. It's a cult. It's a myth. It's a blah, blah, blah. These guys are frauds. They don't know what they're talking about. How do you deal with that crap, man?
I let them make fools of themselves. I present the facts that, I learned through real progressives, through the experts like Dr. Stephanie Kelton. I present the simple logic of our operational reality, and it speaks for itself. And when other people see that, it's easy for them to understand. They could, apply their own logic and come to the same conclusion. There's no other way it can be, so I can't stand those people as much as the next guy, but, I block that, I've had enough when they become really unproductive and start getting really crazy. But I use them as a learning opportunity too for other people, because that's how I come, to MMT, and watching you and Ellis, and at first I didn't comment or nothing. I just watched, and it was kind of like a different language, and I would just absorb it. And I would see other people commenting, and even stupid comments, and then I would see how you guys would respond, and it helped me learn. So I remember those lessons, and so I try to, explain everything, over and over and over. It gets kind of repetitious, and it kind of gets frustrating, but it feels like it has to be done. It's logic and truth everywhere it's needed every day. It's the most important thing anybody could be doing.
All right, brother. So let me ask you this question. You've been on different shows, you're on with Harsh, you're on with some other, conservative guy radio program. The dude's got the Stars and Bars and the South of Rise again and all the other crazy nonsense. And still doesn't recognize the white flag of surrender being his true flag, you name it. I mean, tell me a little bit about the angles these fools came at you with, and how they're able to, for real, there's no harsh shot on Harsh, but the people that follow Harsh, a lot of those people, I could name them. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't know their names, but these guys really, really, really talk smack, hardcore smack about everything we were doing. And it's like, you can't even have a conversation because they don't even start from a bad position. They just start from no position and just, flap, 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 flap.
I found that out. I found that out the hard way, debating Chris Lewis and debating that Alex Wolfstein, and even this Weed Thor guy last night. Just for a second. They don't. We can't. You can't debate someone when you have no point of reference, no basis. When you can't even admit basic fact, how can you debate? You know what I mean? And with Harsh, he agrees.
You're locked up.
What's that?
I said you're locking up a little bit. Your connection did. All right.
Go ahead.
No, so obviously, you had to deal with the stuff with on Harsh's program, and then you had to deal with the guy the Wolfenstein guy, but you've also had an awful lot of others that have come to you, and I've watched you, and it's like, they literally aren't talking economics. Chris Lewis was I wouldn't even debate him. I immediately knew he not only didn't know even the most fundamental things about inflation or the fundamental things about basic bad neoclassical economics. He didn't even have that. He just was talking and talking and talking. And there are people that follow that kind of stuff. I'm not even joking. This is why our movement is in so much trouble. And this is why we've got to be that pill, that magic elixir that helps us get somewhere. Talk to me about what it's like to be able to penetrate through that thick, dense, material known as the skull that is literally blocking all sense and reason from them. Because you were doing it. I watched. Mind you, a lot of these people just trolled back, and they didn't actually bring real arguments. It was painful to watch. It really was brutal. But there were I've seen times where these people that literally just sucked the life out of you, you were able to slowly, patiently get them to the other side. Talk to me about some of your success stories, Rocco, because you've been fantastic.
That's the good point of all this, Hold on, am I getting an echo? Let me see.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that's the good point. The silver lining. A lot of these people in these groups, even in libertarian groups and Donald Trump groups, and people that follow Chris, I'll get people that message me and privately will ask more questions, or like that Alex Wolfstein. This is a guy that wants the South to succeed from America, but he saw me talking about economics, and it appealed to him, and he kind of saw potential. I wasn't ultimately able to get him, but I'm sure other people that watched our talk and seen me explain this stuff will be able to at least start asking the right questions and go down the right path. Start looking up Dr. Stephanie Kelton, start following Real Progressive, start and learn for themselves. It's kind of hard to argue with the Constitution. The preamble to the Constitution, is fact. It's just an operational fact. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is just an operational fact. Congress has mandated the mint and tax for the general welfare and common defense thereof. So not even libertarians can argue the fact that our government needs a military. We need infrastructure, roads, legal systems, sanitation systems. No one can argue those facts. And so how does government get those things? Well, it uses debt instruments in a monetary economy. It imposes tax on the private sector, instantly creating unemployment. And then with that, government can provision society with all those needed real resources using paid employment. So it's just a social construct. It's just a means of production to drive real resources from us in the private sector to the public sector for the general welfare. And so that means that if government makes unemployment for the general welfare, it's government's responsibility to maintain true full employment for that same general welfare, because anything else is artificial scarcity, especially when our communities are crumbling. People are being poisoned by drinking water, and this is work that isn't getting done. And we need it done for civil society. That's government's job, the general welfare. So when you explain it, some people will always deny it and they just don't care. But most people, when they hear it from the different perspective, like me and you both come from a right-wing background.
Yep.
And but when you go through life, and life has a way of making you see the other side of the coin sometimes. And not just that, and then when you hear other perspectives and you start to think about things and work them through, if you're unbiased and you really want to get the truth, you can get there, And so MMT, MMT for me was, it's the revolution, because it touches every single issue in our society. It has its roots in economics. And, MMT has the solutions in macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is the big picture, so that's why I'm able to take clicks with me.
So, okay, Rocco, real quickly. So we look at our right-wing background, coming from the far right, the Christian, evangelical, hardcore, let's go to war. Hey man, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, cut the crap, get to work, no more excuses, stop the bullshit kind of thing. You come into this and you realize, wait a minute, hold on. All that crap, most of that crap, aside from being just a jackass, stems from actually believing that your taxes are paying for their laziness. And you start hearing that in your own head and you realize, oh crap. Now that I know that's not true, now that I realize that's completely not true, it opens up your mind to allow you to start seeing, well, why is this happening? Why are these groups being directly impacted by spending cuts? Why are some people always out of work and other people always seem to find work no matter what the circumstances? Why is society so unequal? And you start realizing it was built that way. And then you start realizing the only way to unbuild it that way and rebuild it in our proper image, if you will, is understanding proper resource allocation. MMT is ultimately about efficient resource allocation. I hear the resource-based economy folks talking about, well, I don't like MMT. I want a resource-based economy. MMT is all about resource delivery. It's about the proper distribution thereof. When you start thinking about what full employment does to an economy, when you start thinking about how do we get green energy when it's not profitable to the private sector? Well, you need the government to make it profitable, or at least you need to make it so that it's done regardless of profit. Yes. And then you ask about medical. And by the way, I'm going to go through a couple of things, and then I'm going to talk directly about your background as a veteran. But before we go there, let me finish this up. So you got green energy, and it's like, well, that's not profitable. Right now, it is simply not profitable to the big businesses to do this. So it's not going to get done if we wait for the market to figure it out. So that means somebody's got to step in and do it. Federal government could do it right now. The problem is that the left thinks we got a tax to make this happen, and the right doesn't want it to happen because they don't want their taxes to go up. So once again, MMT is the silver bullet to slice through that, save the planet, save us from wars for oil, save us from all this crap. But we can't get the people on the left to listen. Quite frankly, I find the people on the right listen more sometimes. But then you look at equality and you think to yourself, we have a very unequal society. We have a society rooted in all kinds of one-upsmanship, and I'm 1 inch above the pig slop compared to you, and so on and so forth. When we have a society that we could literally bring about equality like that, we could bring reparations, and we could end generational poverty. We could make everyone survive and thrive if we chose to open up our minds and learn basic economics. And then you look at elections. Think about this. Publicly funded elections, that's no big deal. There's no reason we need to get all this money from these corporations. There's no reason we need to have millions of lobbyists to pay for this stuff. We can literally do it like that. And then you look at education. We can do the same thing. There's no reason for kids to be strapped with tons and tons of debt. So, Rocco, I look at you as a young man who I know has suffered immensely from wars for oil and who has suffered immensely from your service to your country and have received next to no care as a veteran who has been disabled and harmed by service in the military. This is not only is it completely unacceptable, it's completely avoidable. There's absolutely no reason for it. But across the board, you've been stymied and stifled, and really, quite frankly, thank you for your time. Let me kick you in your ass and get you out of here. Talk about your time as a returning veteran, and because with Memorial Day coming, this is very important. We don't talk enough about our returning veterans and how these people who are war heroes are really basically left to fend for themselves, thrown in the street, and done nothing for. So go for it, man.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I never made it to a war. I got hurt in training in San Diego. I was training to be air crew, and I got hurt several times on the flight line, fell off a helicopter, ran into the stabilizer, a bunch of different ways. But anyway, I wanted, I signed on the dotted line to go to the military to protect the ideas that are our Constitution, that make up our Constitution. And, and I was so disillusioned and brainwashed. They kind of instilled in you to be a Republican, to vote Republican, and to be pro-war. I found myself often, repeating the same propaganda, saying we all, if we don't fight them over there, we're going to have to fight them over here. Or, these people just want to kill us because of our way of life, and all of these things. And I never really thought them through. Well, that's why they get young kids so young, the frontal cortex of their brains not fully developed. They don't think about consequences as much, and so they're more likely to jump on a grenade to save the platoon. And so they're more likely to be piss and vinegar, basically, and run to the front lines and not think or ask questions. And so, and then, when I got hurt and I had to get out, first of all, I was devastated. I wanted to make a career out of it. And, I had to get spinal surgery on my neck. Actually, I've had two of them, and I just wasn't able to keep up with the physical training. So I had to get out, and I had to start going through the VA. And I found out real quick that the VA is starved of public resources or of any kind of resources. And, you're lucky if you, pretty much the most you could hope for is to go in there and get good drugs, and I'm talking, hardcore drugs. And, they would give them to you. Even that, though, now is going away. They're so afraid of the DEA. And, now they seem to want to wait people out. They'll keep denying you your benefits. They give me the bare minimum. I get 50% disability, even though I've had multiple spinal surgeries. Both of my shoulders are blown out. I can't work. I'm 100% disabled, but I only get 50% disability, and so that amounts to me getting just barely enough to live, especially being a single dad and trying to help and take care of my mom too. It's just really, really rough. And you're forced to do a lot of things that you wouldn't want to do to have to live. You're forced to always be looking over your shoulder. You're forced to always be worried. And no one should have to live like that, let alone vets. I can't even, they say Trump was supposedly just passed a bill that I could get private care in my hometown if you live too far away from a VA. Well, the only VA for me is a whole city away. So this should be precisely for me. Yet they will not fund private doctor for me in Newcastle. I call and ask them, and they actually told me it would be a waste of their resources. And then I called back and they told me they disenrolled me from the VA system to make room for veterans who want care. So I had a call back. Now they finally put me back in. I got an appointment for the 11th, but it's a whole city away. I got no car. I'm poor. And they tell you you're guaranteed a VA loan to get a house. I tried to get a loan and the bank guy says, oh no,
you froze up, bro.
Oh, well, they say that you're guaranteed a VA home loan too. If you go to the military, you get out. I go to get a VA home loan and they tell me, yeah, it's guaranteed, but you got to have a 600 credit score. So I say, well, how is that guaranteed? If you don't have a 600 credit score, you don't get it. And why would the bank care? They know that if I don't pay my loan, the VA would pay it. So you would think. But because everything they say is smoke and mirrors, they lie to get you in. My brother went in, all my brothers, I have two brothers, and we all were in the military, and they lied to them. My brother John Paul was supposed to get his student loan paid off, and they never did it. They simply didn't do it. So, and it's a bullshit that it has to be the employer of last resort. When you grow up in a horrible city in the Rust Belt like Newcastle, all there is drugs and crime. And, my family actually, except for my mother, pushed me to go into the military. And that's sad when your family's encouraging you to put your life on the line just for a stable career opportunities. My mother wanted to shoot me in the foot. But
that brings me to the next point, right? So, we're amongst academics and others who are leading the charge to try to advance the economics that allow us to change this radically with a federal job guarantee and many other services. But there are a lot of people. I mean, when I say a lot of people, I mean a lot of people, right? That want to tone police people, that want to go around and tell them to be, you're a megalomaniac, you're a narcissist, you're this, you're that, you're loud, you say mean things, you have mean eyebrows, you do whatever. Reality is that I lived a very similar life to you minus the military portion of this. Okay. I came through this with great pain and suffering. Lots of loss, lots of health problems, lots of dental problems that you don't ever hear universal dental care. You don't ever hear anything about them. I mean, think about it. You could have a heart problem just because you have rotten teeth.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything for you. But the real point here is there's an awful lot of people out there who led a pretty freaking privileged life, that went around, who was mommy and daddy's trust fund paid for them to have nice places, nice jet set Soho type apartments. They got to have they get to travel around the world. They get to go here. They get to go there. And they stand there scowling and looking down their nose at you as you present your pain and your suffering, and you explain how you got from point A to point B and why you're in a position to talk to people about your pain and suffering and the solutions out. So many scowling down their nose, like judging, always judging, looking at you and saying, yeah, I just don't like his tone. I just don't like his tone. I mean, how often do you see people just sort of haughty and, well, this has plagued me for a long time, because I used to live in a single wide, right? And I was in sales and I was going through a divorce. And these people would sit there and they'd be like, oh, yeah, did you see that? What do you live in the trailer park? You live in the trailer park? And you're like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I do. I know that we work together and you think that we're supposed to all be in a mansion. But yeah, homie, I live in a freaking single wide trailer. That's right. And, these people are talking about their trip to Monaco and the trip to Tripoli and the trip around the world and this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, oh man, I haven't been to the beach in years. I haven't been anywhere. I can't afford it. Hell, I can't afford to get my teeth fixed that are falling out, Exactly. But, I mean, what kind of society are we living in where people have the ability to be that different, to have that different of a life experience based on things that are completely outside of control of the normal person? I don't get it. What is your take on that, Rocco?
It goes back to what you were saying. We have this existing exploitative social hierarchy that's in place, and we're almost taught to be indifferent to other human suffering that are below us. We're afraid to speak out and lose our social status and be down there at the bottom. And I think, like I always say, when I tell the story of that girl that got raped in Newcastle by police who were looking for marijuana, for 5 hours, this girl had vaginal tearing over a flower. And I tell that story, and, it was in the front page of the newspaper. Most of the people in my city, they had to become indifferent to her suffering. They had to, she probably hung out with the wrong crowd, and or she was probably no good, or that doesn't happen to good people, and people don't understand the reality that could be their daughter, it could be their son, it could have been them. And if a cop has that power, they have that, they have a bad day, it could be you on the wrong end of this story, but because of this social hierarchy, we kind of overlook it. We don't want to think about it. When we do think about it, we have physical pain. Like my mom told me the other day, think about happier things. This makes me sick to my stomach to think about. And I said, well, good. We're supposed to be sick to our stomach when the Jews are being led to the ovens. We're not supposed to be happy and, thinking about happy thoughts. That's how atrocities happen. We all need to be outraged and, talking about this out in the open. Don't be more offended by the truth that I'm speaking. I mean, by me speaking the truth than by it being the truth. You know what I mean? It's not patriotic to, look the other way and allow your government to be tyrannical. This is ridiculous, and when I say these things like, cops shouldn't rape, rob, and kill over flowers, I'm looked at like a radical. And I say, look, I'm a disabled vet. I love my country like the next person. I wish to God that I could be proud of my country. I wish to God I could say my country protects everyone's rights under the law equally and works for the general welfare and satisfies its mandate to the Constitution. But that's not how it is. And ignoring that fact ain't going to make it happen. Only speaking it and confronting it is going to overcome these problems that we face in our society. Regular people like you and me, we don't get paid. We don't want nothing. We just want everybody to understand the facts and unite in solidarity so that we can, force our socially owned government to satisfy its constitutional mandate. It ain't radical.
So, Rocco, I'm telling you right now, I watch folks like Lee Camp and I watch folks like Jimmy Dore, and I understand Jimmy Dore is going to have Stephanie Kelton on here soon. But it's been a long time. We've been talking to these individuals, and Tim Black and others, H.A. Goodman, Jamarl Thomas, a bunch of people. I mean, these people have all heard MMT. They know it's the answer to be able to provide a progressive agenda. We're not just a bunch of hipsters sitting there on a microphone talking. We have the experts come and literally tell you point blank how to do this. Why do you suppose that you don't hear, like, I'm just going to talk about my friends here for a minute. You don't hear Movement for a People's Party come out and talk about it. You hear them talk about building a party, but here's an opportunity for us to really, really make headway and build the consciousness so that when we do have these third parties, that they are advancing modern monetary theory. But you don't hear them talk about it. You don't hear PIP particularly talk about it. Even though Eric is on board with it, and she was on the show the other day, you don't hear the people really, really talking about it. You still hear the stuff about central bankers and we got to get out of this debt and all the deficit crap. And then you look over at Lee Camp, who sits there and never misses a chance to talk about, the conspiracy theories, this, that, and the other, but they never, ever, ever, ever bring on Stephanie Kelton or any of these other experts. And there are so many experts available to them, and none of them get a phone call. None of them get an email. Hey, come on our show so we can teach the people how. But yet you look at their thing and they'll have 1,000 likes. They'll have 1,000 comments. They'll have people paying to put comments on there, but not one of them is talking economic truth. And this is what, it's infotainment at best, because they're not giving the people the things they need to be able to advance this stuff. And you know what? I'm a little pissed off about it, to be honest with you. I'm a little angry because having 1,000 people like your damn show, having all those people watch your damn show, and you're still afraid to talk about the truth about economics, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. And I have a real problem with it because they've all been exposed to the truth, and yet they all refuse to present the truth, and they still have massive followings. It's bullshit, and I've had enough of it. It's time for them to step up. I love them all. They're all friends. It's not against them. I'm saying, damn it, step up and help the people. They need to hear these people say it. They need to hear them say it, because otherwise people sit there on their hands saying, well, Bernie didn't say it yet. So-and-so didn't say it yet. I haven't heard me say it yet. David Cobb hasn't said it yet. David Cobb calls us pontificators. Yeah, I haven't heard any of these people. Why is that? It's ridiculous. I'll tell you right now, they're going to look back on this and they're going to say they were given opportunities and they knew people were badgering them. Learn MMT, talk MMT, get so-and-so on your show. And they didn't do it. And then we missed years and years and years of educating the public so that they could help people like you. But no, they're more happy with talking about nonsense. And I'm telling you right now, dude, I'm so serious. I've had enough. I'm so sick of it. Have you noticed this, or is it just me?
Absolutely, no. Absolutely, it's baffling, and they're actually doing more harm than good a lot of times. I love Lee Camp. I love all them same people, but even though we're on the same side, we have to be able to give constructive criticism. And where they miss the mark, they're missing the mark badly, and they're being very counterproductive because they're not rooted in economic truth. All problems in our society are based in economics, and you have to understand our operational reality to be able to combat those problems. And this stuff is basic logic. So, I'm baffled, this is the natural revolutionary vehicle that can unite all sides in solidarity for the public purpose, first and foremost, using simple logic. You get a Republican like Mike Norman, who's to the left of Bernie Sanders or anybody in the Democratic Party. That's a testament to the revolutionary nature of MMT. How can't any social justice warrior recognize that and utilize it, and learn everything they can about it? That's the thing. I'm just like you, I get mad about this stuff too. I sent Lee Camp a message, and I send different people messages, Dr. Wolf, and I want to go on their shows. I want to interview them. I want to do anything, but I never hear back, and it's very disappointing, especially with people like Dr. Wolf. I like a lot of what he says, and I watch him a lot, and he says good things. He has good civil debates when he has Stephanie Kelton on, and then right after he'll go back to talking about revenues and things that have, don't matter, and I just don't get it at all. And so it's up to us to just keep on plugging away, and going on these different sites and lighting up the comments and putting the truth out there.
Absolutely. So one of the things that, you and I have been talking, here and there about, is, we're going to be doing a podcast in the future here. The podcast, for those of you who are aware, is called Macro and Cheese. And we're in the process of trying to identify the individuals that will be on that podcast. It won't just be me. We had an original idea of how it was going to go that went south, and I'm not going to try and revive it. I've had enough of it. So, Rocco, you and I are talking. We're going to talk to several other people, and we're going to have ourselves one hell of a podcast, man. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Not just going to be, just chibber chabber. It's going to be serious, hard punching, but you're going to be able to laugh your way through it, because we have enough pain and suffering that maybe if we talk about it in a humorous way, people will pay attention. I don't know, because Lee Camp sure keeps them going, but he doesn't speak any economic truth, man. I'm so sorry. He's got such a great opportunity to really change the world, and it breaks my heart, because if I had it, I would be driving that sucker home. Same with Tim Black, man. He's got such a great opportunity. He refuses to take this on. And Jimmy, to his credit, is bringing them on. But, my God, it's so few and far between. It's just easier to say things that have always failed and just keep saying them over and over again. And the bumper sticker comments, right? The Twitter bumper sticker level comments that get everybody, yeah, go share that. Yeah. Fist in the air. Yeah. And you're just like, man, you're going right off a cliff. Yeah, you just herding right off.
Everybody got to blow up their comments. Everyone got to blow up the comments, send them messages, and ask, tell them, come on, Real Progressives, learn MMT, interview Dr. Kelton, interview Steve, anybody. That's the only way these people are going to listen, in my opinion.
I don't even know if it's going to be that. I sit there. I kid you not, Rocco. Every time, I've emailed them. I've literally emailed. I've talked to them face to face. Take Jordan Chariton, for example. When we were talking on the one interview that I did with him, he said, I think Cenk is okay for deficit spending. Never mind the fact that we've got Cenk on tape over and over and over again saying he's a fiscal conservative. And never mind the fact that Cenk went out there talking about the deficit is a moral hazard, basically. We got to, fix the deficit and fix oh my God, it's unsustainable. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world is that even remotely okay to a real progressive? If you're a real progressive and you're talking about cutting spending, you need to check yourself. You need to look in the mirror and ask, are you a real progressive, or are you just a conservative running around not knowing any better? Because there's every single possible thing that we want, the entire Green New Deal, any kind of public purpose spending. If you try and tax your way there, you'll end up with what happened when Bill Clinton balanced the budget and had his surplus. He destroyed the economy, and we're still dealing with the failures of Clinton economics. It's disgusting. It was brought on by Democrats. I hate to say this. I know people hate to hear that, but the reality is that Reagan, as bad as he was, Bill Clinton said, let me one up you, baby. And he took that thing an extra level. The whole redefining government, making it more efficient, welfare reform, 5-year max lifetime, destroyed it.
Yeah. And people still hold it up as an accomplishment.
Horrible. It's disgusting. And I'll tell you, the other thing is there's an article in Business Insider, I think it's from like 2012. I post it probably once every couple weeks, and it's got the greatest quotes in there from Stephanie Kelton. And it's talking about how Bill Clinton's balanced budget destroyed our economy, and we're still dealing with it. And she talks quite frankly about, the whole macro case for not balancing the budget. Yet you look around, and I kid you not, people that want a constitutional convention to get money out of politics sounds great on the surface, right? But the reality is, once you open the door for a con, there are tons of progressives and pseudo-progressives and neoliberals and right-wing hacks and other LOL libertarians, you name it, that would love nothing more than a balanced budget amendment that would literally destroy and eliminate any chance of a progressive revival, any chance of public purpose spending, any chance of us having an economy that serves the people. And it's mind-blowing. And that's what we're up against. People don't realize how very real this problem is of the balanced budget, deficit hawk, debt hawk worms that are infesting our entire nation. And quite frankly, it's around the globe. I mean, I got Dr. Stephen Hale coming on with me tomorrow night. And, Stephen Hale he doesn't pull any punches. He's a gentleman, but he'll be the first one to tell you flat out, austerity kills. Now, if austerity kills, and austerity is cutting spending, and austerity is tightening our belts, okay, and if it's killing, there's only one word I have for that, and that is murder. And if you're jumping off and running around, we got to reduce the deficit, we got to reduce the debt. Oh my God, if you're doing that, I don't care whether it's innocent or not. It's like stepping on someone's head that their face is in the mud puddle and they can't breathe. And you're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Well, the hell with that. You just killed somebody. And we're here to tell you, hey, it's okay when you don't know. We're going to teach you to not do that anymore. But these people are doubling down, and they're letting people remain head in the mud, foot on the skull, kicking them rather down. And I'm done with it, dude. I'm flat out done with it. It's pissing the shit out of me. I'm so over it. And yet we got it all over the place. I mean, literally, Sherrod Brown, big Ohio guy, such a great progressive. I used to, before I knew MMT, I was a big old Sherrod Brown fan. Sherrod Brown, he signed the line for wanting to be one of those guys supporting a balanced budget amendment. What a waste. This is why when people say, yeah, he's a progressive, support progressives. Of course we support progressives. If you don't know economics, I'm sorry. And this goes to the new wave of candidates, you name it. If you don't know economics, you can do an awful lot of damage with your good intentions. And this is the problem. I'm not going to stay idle by because somebody says, well, so-and-so is a Bernie-crat. Well, show me the money. Prove to me that you understand economics. If you don't understand economics, you can do more damage than Donald Trump ever did with a tweet. Okay? You can do far more damage. So talk to me, Rocco, talk to me about what you think this next crop of politicians that we're supposed to get excited for in 2018, this blue wave. Are you seeing a blue wave of MMT people? Because I'm not even seeing the people that are supposed to be championing these progressives out there saying this stuff. Now, thank God the job guarantee has got a lot of play right now. Thank God student debt removal or elimination has gotten some play right now. But there's a whole lot more we can do, and they're not talking about it because they're cowards. I mean, even Ro Khanna is out there yapping his mouth about the pay force. It's infuriating. What are your thoughts?
I've seen that. That's what I mean when I say it's counterproductive. And when Lee Camp and all these people, the so-called leaders of the progressive movement are advancing these fears of debt, debt terror, that somehow the government's debt is a burden on us and the non-government, that's counterproductive. And then, you get people that think that balancing the federal budget is a good idea, not understanding that is pure death. That's inflicting artificial adversity on more than guns and drugs. Oh, well, what I was saying is, the people that do that, can you hear me now?
Oh, I hear you great.
Okay. Yeah. Well, debt being, talk about debt being bad and a burden on us and the non-government. It's very counterproductive. It gets people to think that we need to balance the federal budget. And and it's how to accept pointless austerity that kills just like bullets, for fear of non-existent inflatable. Something needs to be done, and these people are not progressive if they're advocating reduced deficits or balanced budgets or, God forbid, federal surpluses. People are still going there at plus. I mean, not understanding how ridiculous they sound. They think that the Bill Clinton surplus means there was a pile of cash somewhere, that we could have. I don't know what they think. They just don't think things through. Well,
there's a whole batch of fake progressives. They're faux-gressives, okay? And they march around. They're at every protest. Their fist is in the air. And they have no idea, none, zip, zero, zilch. But they're out there leading the charge. They're not like in the background. They're stepping forward, leading the charge. And when you lead the charge, I think that there's some responsibility that comes with being at the head of the pack. There's some responsibility with when you lead young people, like, for example, all these young people that are coming out. It's great. You want to see people energized and ready to go. But when you see them not willing to pay attention, you see them full cup. They think they know everything. They're sitting there. They're going to their burner meet and greets. They're going to this and that and the other. They're in the cool kids club. They're all, the pretty people, and they're cliquey and they're hanging out, but they won't listen. So what they're doing is sidelining tons and tons of tons of people that could literally be dialing into this and realizing, holy shit, we can do more than just have Medicare for all. Hell, we can have way better than just Fight for 15. We can really take care of our returning veterans. We can really get free education, get rid of student debt. We can do all this stuff. And yet they are out there literally burning away whatever energy we have at these little progressive, oh my God, we got to go march in this. We got to go put our sign up at that. And literally you ask, where is the follow through? Where is the demands? Where is anything? And they're not there. Why is that? Because it is really not being driven toward a point of success. They're not trying to win. It's good enough to get a progressive elected or a Democrat elected or whoever. They're not thinking at all. It's like zero cognition. It's like, hey, I like them. They wear the same jersey as I do. So, vote blue, vote summer, vote for Pedro. It's all this Napoleon Dynamite like high school student council kind of elections. Hey, I'll give you a golf pep rallies. Yeah, vote for him. I mean, there's no real substantive. There is no questioning. There is no nothing. It's like all these superficial things, and there's no depth to it. And that is what's killing our movement, is the people refuse to dig just a little bit deeper to make demands. And you see someone like Cory Booker say, I'm for the federal job guarantee. But Cory Booker's we'll go ahead and do a little trial. We'll do a trial for a couple things. And you know what? It's built to prove that it doesn't work. It's going to fail. And then it'll be like, yeah, see, the job guarantee is not going to work. See, you've already seen it happen. It doesn't work. This is the bullshit. I mean, what do you think, Rocco? What are your thoughts? Is someone suffering too? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's well, people are suffering and dying. It's a hobby for many people, and they don't understand the gravity of the situation. Though they're talking about the lesser evil, and they're talking about what's cool. At the end of the day, they have their basic needs met. They don't understand, so many people we're all brainwashed from birth with these right-wing neoliberal lies. And whether we know it or not, even people on our own side, we still have these ideas that were designed to keep us all divided. And so, like what you were saying earlier, when people think the government has a finite amount of money, they're less likely to help the bottom because they think that'll get them more or less money in the end. So it's they're less likely to unite. And we see the same thing over and over and over in every part of our society. And somewhere we have to break the cycle. We have to start talking about the solutions, and, and interjecting this simple logic and putting people on the spot. When I see this, mass movement of kids coming up, for gun legislation, I love that. We need their voice, but so many times the mainstream is able to co-opt grassroots movements and make us spin our wheels on the hamster wheel. The thing is we have to educate the people to understand if they really want a systemic fix, it's going to take more than feel good policy prescriptions that do nothing to change the systemic abuses that radicalize people to begin with. So it all comes back to this economic message that we're spreading it, real progressives, MMT, and we just got to get up. And that's the only thing we could do is keep moving forward, not let people get us down, not let anybody get us frustrated, because the only other option is to give up or be a defeatist and help the other side. I don't fight because I know I'm going to win. I fight because I refuse to lie to myself and leave my kids a future worse off, without even trying to fight back. So I'd rather fight back and lose than give up.
That's right. Rocco, I'm going to play a video of Bill Mitchell real quickly describing the difference between a progressive and a faux-gressive, basically. Okay. Awesome. So here we go.
Awesome.
Put this up here. Folks, enjoy. Here we go.
Their social and environmental agendas are first class, what I call progressive stances. But then in the same breath, they reiterate all of this other stuff that is straightforward mainstream economics nonsense, fake knowledge. The bottom line is that you can't achieve those progressive ideals if at the same time you're adopting macroeconomic policy that constrain the capacity of the government to do anything much.
All right. So right there, you see, bottom line is that economics is really the fundamental flaw in what I would consider the divide between faux-gressives and progressives. And we are literally wondering why we don't achieve anything. I don't think you have to look any further than a lack of understanding about economics. It really is that basic. It is that straightforward. It is that clean cut. And, I'd love to support the Green Party, and thank God there are people in the Green Party that are light bulbs are going on, because the old guard is recalcitrant. They are doubled down. They are dug in, and they absolutely refuse to acknowledge that the debt ain't real. And they refuse to accept the fact that we can deficit spend to make the real stuff happen for the regular people. So instead, we sit there and we spin our wheels. I mean, even Dennis Kucinich, everybody talked about what a great lefty is. This guy has got some of the worst economics known to man. And yet he's heralded. Jesse the Body, this is a guy that doesn't know economics either. And he says all the same tired nonsense, but he's a truth teller and he goes on Bill Maher. And so you've got all these people that we celebrate to the high ends, and they are literally the epitome of a neoliberal, even though you don't realize they are, because they're sitting there preaching scarcity. They're preaching about economics that are just completely cockamamie, and they could have all the greatest ideas in the world, but they will never, ever, ever be able to make an impact on getting them passed because they can't get out of their own way when it comes to economics. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the truth, but it's ridiculous, and it's sad because you want to support them. You want to support all these folks because they got so many of the sensibilities, but they don't realize that if we just support them outright, if we don't caveat it with get your economic house in order and then let's talk, they don't want to listen to that. They want to just keep marching fist in the air, doing the same crap that got us nowhere over and over again. Homie, I don't have time for it anymore. I don't have it in me anymore. I've got a child with autism. Do you know we could fund not only great care for autism, but we could have centers all around the country for parents and families that need that one-on-one attention. And they literally, well, what about the national debt? And what about deficits? Well, if we just cut spending here and we go have spending there, then we can do it. I'm like, you know what? What if we lose the war of cutting spending over there? Does that mean my son suffers because you can't get out of your own frickin' way and learn? Is that really the answer you're going to give me? Oh, we got to cut military spending before we can go ahead and pay for autism. Bullshit. We got to cut military spending before we can fund you, Rocco, to have health care. We got to cut military spending before we can do anything. Bullshit in a chef's salad. We can do it now. We got to raise taxes on the rich before we can do it. Bullshit. Let's make the rich irrelevant. Let's spend on the people now. I mean, all this tired, regurgitated garbage that we've heard for 40 freaking years, man. It's time for a new story. It's time for a new narrative. I'm done. I mean, like, done. I can't take anymore. I mean, how do you deal with it, Rocco? I mean, you're in pain every freaking day, brother. I mean, I don't get it. How do you deal with it?
And actually, that's what helps me is coming out here and actually talking and getting positive feedback because, that actually keeps me going. It feels like I'm making a difference. And even if regardless, even if I just help one person, then that person can go and they'll spread the knowledge and another person. And, but, ultimately it's about not being, I don't want to be complicit with the status quo. I don't want to, I want to fight, win or lose on the right side. I want to fight when I die. I want to know that I did everything in my power to leave my kids and leave the earth a better place than I found it. You know what I mean? And that's what gets me through the day. You know what I mean? Knowing that I'm not, a bad person. I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not willing to accept fascism. I'm not willing to accept pointless suffering and death and just think about happier times, because, forget that. No one should be happy when this stuff is going on, when people are suffering and dying for no other reason than a lack of cash, when people are homeless, when we have 3 million homeless people and 5 million empty foreclosed houses. We have the real resources in America to meet everybody's base needs in the public sector for free, because if government's paying teachers to educate, we don't need to charge the end user. Government doesn't need profit or even revenue to spend and operate. And that's a public good and socially valuable in and of itself. Really, it's socially invaluable. We need that for civil society, top-notch education for all. Same with healthcare, same with green sustainable energy. So, and then, thinking about the solutions also gives me hope. That's like a drug for me to know there is hope. There's a possibility, no matter how, distant or, unlikely that possibility is. There is a possibility, it's operationally possible. And if we unite in solidarity, we can't be stopped. You know what I mean? So, and I know that it's the gain we have has been clawed and fought for collectively. The ruling class never. We've always had to collectively force the issue. So could do this, we went from a Great Depression to the #1 world superpower. I refuse to believe we put a person on the moon, yet we can't survive unless we target unemployment and live off the misery of the bottom, with this trickle down neoliberal hell that we find ourselves in.
So, Rocco, real quickly, I want to play something that you've heard before, but other people maybe haven't heard. And I'm going to do it with just our logo up here because I can't seem to get the video to show up, but hopefully people can hear it. If you follow Stephanie Kelton, it'll be on on her Twitter feed, like the pinned post. But here we go. You'll all be able to hear this. It's going to crack you up. And I guess I could probably just have Rocco and I on here, and you could watch us laugh as we do this, because this is going to be funny. Let me know if you all hear this. This is fun. Here we go. So I'm going to start it over, and here we go.
Taking money.
Oh, there we go. Hold on. I got to do it the other way, unfortunately. Give me a second, brother. This is worth hearing.
Take out
taking money from our children and borrowing from China.
Take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt that we are going to have.
That's Obama.
That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
The government's irresponsible spending is turning us into
Glenn
slaves.
Beck.
You might well literally lock us into chains, at least our children.
We got to deal with this big long-term debt problem, or it will deal with us.
And
W.
it is I think it is.
I'm asking
Paul Ryan.
join us to stop this fiscal train wreck. Join us to protect our children from an inferior standard of living, from a crushing burden of debt and taxes.
Evil.
Okay, I don't believe in
There's
any
Cenk.
tax cuts. I didn't want tax cuts for the rich. I didn't even want it for the middle class. Okay, because you know why? Because it puts a $400 billion hole in the budget, and we just can't afford it.
And as we discussed deficit reduction, which is clearly a major issue.
For decades, we have piled deficit upon deficit, mortgaging our future and our children's future.
And the debt thing is real, and the debt thing is real. We are really in trouble, and it's something.
Is there need for comprehensive deficit reduction? The answer is not only yes, but hell yes.
This debt that hangs over our head, a government that spends more money than it takes in. It's not sustainable.
You cannot cut taxes or increase spending unless you pay for it.
The math of federal spending does not add up. And we are
good.
We have a debt burden that's...
There's Boner.
To me, this is a moral issue. You can't steal from your kids and grandkids.
Oh, shut up.
We think.
Nancy Loser.
All right, a moral.
National debt is America's biggest problem.
That right there, I mean, that is what we're dealing with, okay? That is what we're up against. And that right there, my friend, is a good thing for us to end on, because we have got to overcome that. If you all think that this is just us making things up, that was every person you've ever worshiped at the altar for, every person you ever hoped, every hope and change, all the other things, every single one of them. Take out a credit card from the People's Bank of China. I mean, this is ridiculous. Well, we better deal with this long-term debt problem, or it will deal with us. I mean, all this ridiculous garbage. And it's holding every one of us back. It's harming your kids. And let me tell you something. You can think about this. In the ocean, right? The waves come against the shore, and then the waves go back. You have high tide, you have low tide, okay? But there's always water in the deeper part of the ocean. There's always water. Doesn't matter. It doesn't even realize that sometimes there's not water on the shore and sometimes there is, right? In an economy like ours, the people that are insulated from the ebbs and flows, they don't even feel it. They don't even realize it. But for those people that are left on the shallows of the beach, those people are without water. Those people are the ones that when you reduce spending, it's like bringing the low tide in. They're dead. They're out there. And that is a direct result of cutting spending. So if you think spending is not murder, well, you're just flat out wrong. Every person you've ever heard say, we got to reduce the deficit and all the other stuff, guilty of deaths. You may not even realize, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to believe it. They're your friends. They're your TV personalities. They're your politicians. They're your heroes. And every one of them has been leading you to slaughter. And if you're one of the people that is always in the water zone, no matter high tide or low tide, it doesn't matter. You're always wet. Then you won't care about this. But I'm going to make you care about it. I'm going to keep it in your face. I'm going to keep making you see that. You see the people suffering, and I'm going to make the people suffering realize who the perpetrators of their suffering really are. Because right now we have got it. Well, Democrats this, Republicans that. You just heard Nancy Pelosi and all the other Reich wingers like Paul Ryan saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And then you listen to Dennis Kucinich talking about the national debt. And you listen to Sherrod Brown talking about the national debt. And you even hear Bernie saying stuff. Now, well, let's be fair. Bernie has got Kelton in his ear, and Bernie is making changes hand over fist. You're watching huge, huge, huge shifts. Whether you like Democrats or not, it doesn't matter. You're watching the tide shift. You can be a part of making that shift so that the water doesn't keep killing those poor people that are left on the beaches when the water recedes. That would be the economy eating from their lives. You can be a part of this fix. Fix Flint, Michigan. Fix Puerto Rico. There's no excuses for it. And it's your lack of willingness to dig in and learn that keeps those people on the beach without water. Think about it. I'm here to tell you it's the truth. Rocco, you close us out, brother.
Just picking up where Steve left off, we the people have all the power collectively. We can always unite any day and force our socially owned government to satisfy its constitutional mandate to the general welfare of society. And on this Memorial Day weekend, make sure you remember true American heroes like John Kiriakou, the only man to do time over our nation's torture program. He did time for exposing that torture program. Remember Edward Snowden, who sacrificed his freedom and everything to bring the American people truth about the American empire that is our government right now today. So learn MMT, unite in solidarity for the public purpose, first and foremost, and we cannot be stopped. Thanks, guys.
Amen. All right, buddy. Have a good one, man. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Peace.
Peace.